Good evening. If we could start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We'll open the meeting with agenda item 1.0, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Mr. Percy.
So moved.
I have a motion on the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Mr. Rutar? I have a second. Okay. Does anybody have any discussion on the consent agenda? Back to you, Mr. Percy.
I'd like to pull A, please.
Pulling A. Okay. And Ms. Fisher?
I'd like to pull D and F, please.
D and F. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to take the vote on B, C, and E. I'll ask for a show of hands. All in favor? And okay, those are passed. And I'll put back to Mr. Percy for item A.
On 1.0, the bottom when Mr. Kemp asked to pull agenda item 1.1B, the last sentence of that, Mr. Who will verify information with the town. I don't think it was with the town. It was with our attorney.
It was with our board attorney. Ms. Fisher?
I also believe that Mr. Kemp can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that he was saying that if 5 members of the board are present at a committee meeting, it is a quorum of the full board. I don't believe he was saying that 5 members are required to serve on this committee. He believes that if 5 members are present at a committee meeting, it is a quorum of the full board.
And that was the concern that we brought to the attorney for clarification. So are we clear on that? Are we good? Any other discussion on that item? Ms. Sarn.
When is it appropriate, Mr. Holt, to ask about the information you may have received from the town attorney regarding that?
I can present right now if you'd like. I can let you know that we did talk to the attorney. He did validate what the intent was, that by posting the meetings, they, are a committee meeting, and anybody who attends the meeting that isn't a committee member is there as a citizen and has the same rights as any citizen would have at that meeting. So if we allow citizens to talk, and you can talk, or if we invite you to talk, you could talk. At that meeting. That's the clarification provided by the attorney. Mr. Percy.
So it's not having a quorum at a committee meeting?
It can be a quorum, but that is not an issue because we're not taking action.
That's okay. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
I didn't know we were going to talk about this now, but that's fine. So the answer is it is a quorum. And if it is a quorum, one may not intend to vote, but they could vote. And the simple fact is, because they could vote, even though they might have stated ahead of time they're not going to, it compels other board members to attend in order to transact the public's business. It's not a good idea.
The clarification that we obtained from the attorney was the 4 persons of the committee are the only people in the room that have any say as to any of the activities that go on during that committee meeting. We kept our committees to 4 people. Anybody else in the room is considered a citizen during that meeting. They're an observer. And they do not have voting rights. They do not have the right to speak up on issues. They do not have the right to bring issues to the board. That is why we post the meeting so that it can't be declared as a legal meeting if a 5th person of the board happens to show up. We wanted to make sure that we're covered, that it is not a legal meeting, and that's what the recommendation was, that we post all meetings, and that we do that. Good to move on to the vote on to approve the minutes for item A as amended. Mrs.
I move that we
Okay,
approve.
do I have a second? Mr. Percy? I have a
Second.
motion and a second to approve the minutes for item A as discussed. Any debate on that? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote by show of hands. All in favor? And those opposed? And those abstaining? Mr. Nicholson is abstaining. Thank you. Motion carries. Ms. Fisher, you have items D and F.
These are two policies that are in your blue folders. They're really just typos on policy 5131.3, student driving and parking. It was just missing the word of. And then on the policy 6154 homework, the word guardians was added wherever there was the word parent. And on the last page, when it gave times for homework, it was just supposed to read up to however many minutes per class per night, plus 20 minutes of family literacy experience. Anybody have any questions on that?
And everybody should have those amendments in your blue folder this evening.
And the policies have been reprinted for us too, so they're attached.
So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as amended.
So moved.
Mr. Percy?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the D and E with the amendments that you were, or D and F, sorry, with the amendments that you were just made aware of. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote by show of hands on approving D and F as amended. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Takes care of our consent agenda. We'll move on to item 2.0, which is our secretary's report. Item 2.1, opportunity for the board to add or delete agenda items. Does anybody have any agenda items they wish to add or delete this evening?
Chair, Mr. Chair, if I may, we will no longer need item 4.1 at this time. There's going to non-renew, so I can't do that, but I will do it.
Okay, so Mrs. Fisher?
I move that we delete item 4.1, non-renewal of non-tenured teacher.
I have a motion, Mr. Percy.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to delete item 4.1 from the agenda. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote by show of hands. All in favor? And that's unanimous. And Ms. Sarr?
I'm not for discussion this evening, Mr. Gold. Is it appropriate to ask the board their opinion about future discussion items?
You can put that on the table, yes?
Okay. I'm wondering, when we have so many things on our plate that our agendas aren't addressing them, like the deficit in our current budget, the 2013-14 budget projections. I know that Dr. Conway and her administrators have been preparing lists, but I'm wondering when the board gets to have discussions about the reductions. Mr. Kemp in the past has mentioned that he doesn't like making decisions in one evening, that our discussions should be, we should have opportunities for more than just one discussion and decision making. So I'm wondering about adding those kinds of discussions. Special ed cost containment, areas that we're concerned about. I've heard nothing about the superintendent's evaluation. I've heard nothing about job descriptions. I'm wondering if at some point we can have those discussions and get updated.
Okay, yeah, just to adjust the budgeting items, I would say those are fair game for the Monday, or for the Wednesday budget discussions. When we're discussing our budget, we should be able to talk about those items during our budget deliberation meetings, and if there's things that we feel we need to have addressed during those budget deliberations or as a result of those, we should be able to get those answers. And the other items, the deficit and the evaluations, the evaluation is definitely an agenda item as we get closer to the June timeframe, there is, the committee meets, does their review, and then we get that as a executive session document. So we will have that once the superintendent evaluation committee meets.
But there's no opportunity for discussion prior to?
The committee has to meet and have, give us their input.
I guess I'm questioning, like when we do, if you have a negotiation session coming up, the board gets to speak to the committee.
We want to make sure that everybody can hear. They can't hear you out in the back when they're saying.
Sorry.
Speaking to the mic.
That the board as a whole has an opportunity to give input to the negotiating committee. I'm wondering if we have an opportunity to give input to the evaluation committee or before the fact or not.
Typically, the evaluation committee gets together. They go through the evaluation criteria that we've set at the end of the last evaluation period, and they put together some type of a summary to bring to us, and then we talk about it, and then we end up meeting with the superintendent after the review is, as part of the review process. There's a process in place for that evaluation piece.
I guess I'll just ask my question straight out. Last year we talked about instituting a 360 evaluation. Has that been discussed?
Yes.
Through the chair. We have, the evaluation committee has met, and we have been in discussions with the person who's going to do the 360, and we're still waiting to hear back from her. Once we hear back from her, we were going to bring it to the board. So we're waiting on her at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
But that can, I don't know, he is active.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to make it. There was one more item, I don't recall what it was, job descriptions. And that, we'll make sure that that is a future agenda. Anybody else have anything? Seeing none, we'll move along to item 2.0.